Assalamu alaikum, lovies. This is Mariam Alima with another episode of What Do You Know About Islam? Now, this episode is a very unique episode. It's quite different. We have a brother, this is one nation. We have one ummah, and that's all Muslims are one. And that's especially needs to be established even more so within our nation of Islam, that we say that we are our brother's keepers. So this episode is going to be about shedding light on a story about a young man by the name of Hakim Lofton, who is currently incarcerated on false charges. And I want to help spread light on this young brother's case so that we may come together and unite to get this brother back his freedom. I have on the line with me right now Hakim's father, Brother Joshua, who is out of Atlanta, Georgia, number 15B, Muhammad's Mosque, number 15B. And I was blessed to be able to hear Hakim's story myself on our Fajr Prayerline. And it is a gut-wrenching story. One that you would think would be a movie script, but unfortunately, so it is not a movie script. This is the hell that we live in currently. And I'm going to go ahead and give this brother the opportunity to go ahead and shed more light on his son's case and the circumstances of how he got into the situation in which he's in right now. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Joshua.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Maya. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing very well. Very, very well. Yes, sir. If you can just go ahead and share with everyone what's going on with Hakim, how he came to be in the situation that he is in and everything. Just a little bit of the backstory, if you may.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. By all means. Hakim was raised in a very decent household. And at the time of this alleged crime, Hakim was a college student, second year college student, grade point average 3.0, doing well. He had started to communicate and talk with individuals that was a bit older than him, or at least his age. And they were all visiting a particular residence in the community where they all was hanging out playing PlayStation, Xbox. Mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to us, we was not aware that these older fellas were hanging out with these young guys. And his mother happened to see them one day, and she asked him, who are those older guys?
And he's about 19 at this age, and they're what, you said 40?
Hakim was 19. The one individual was 39. His friend was 48.
48.
And from what I understand, Hakim knew a little about the guy who was 38, 39. Mm-hmm. Very little about the one that was 48 at the time. Well, eventually, this individual by the name of Brown asked him if he would be willing to take some prescription drugs, Xanax, mm-hmm. across town. He would pay him because he claimed he had to work and he couldn't do it, and if he would deliver it for him, he would pay him $500. Hakim, being naive and somewhat unaware of what was happening, and like all of our children, we think we know what's going on and we got it going on, and unfortunately he was not aware of what was really taking place, which later turned out to be them setting him up to be placed in a position where he would be accused of a individual that he didn't know anything about. That was October 10th, 2013. Supposedly been that morning around 8:30. So the 39-year-old gentleman told Hakim he was to meet with the 48-year-old gentleman, Mr. Eatman, and deliver the Xanax to him. And Hakim got to the location, waited on them. Eatman arrived. He gave him the Xanax, or what he thought was the Xanax, because Hakim said he never looked in the bag because it was actually sealed up. So he gave him what he thought was the Xanax. The guy told him, Mr. Eatman said, well, we'll bring the money back. We'll be right back. Again, being ignorant and naive, he waited there for about 4 hours. He made a series of phone calls. As a matter of fact, he even called me that morning. He called his cousin. He was trying to get a ride home because he had actually taken the bus over to that location. And he eventually left and went home after getting a ride. And then he was picked up on October 17th, 2013. I got a call from his mother that there were unmarked vehicles at the house, and I needed to get to the house to see what was going on. As I was pulling up, one of the undercover individuals who said it was from East Point Police Department was coming out of the house. They had my son sitting in the yard in handcuffs along with his female friend. And I asked them, why were they there? What was the problem? Why did they have my son in cuffs? They said he was being arrested for murder. I said, well, where's the warrant? And he opened a folder, and I saw my picture. And I said, well, why do you have my picture in your folder? He said, well, we have to have pictures of everybody in the household when we come into the house. I said, well, I don't see a picture of his mother. I don't see a picture of his brothers and his sisters. And at that time, he closed the folder. I said, you're going to let me view the warrant? Hakim asked him for the warrant. He shoved Hakim in the car. They jumped in the vehicle and pulled off.
Showed you nothing.
Showed me nothing. I asked the other guys who was left behind, these so-called undercover officers who were supposed to be from East Point Police Department. One of them had on a vest that said East Point. I said, sir, do you all have a warrant? He told me I needed to talk to the person that had pulled off. And I asked him what was his name. He said Detective Williams. I got their names, and they were still there waiting on Detective Donald Williams to get there with a search warrant. Understand now, I've seen the officer coming out of the house.
Already in the house without a warrant.
Already in the house without a warrant. Hakim and his friends sitting in the yard. Before they got there, the chairs was there, and you could tell they had been sitting in the yard, but now they're in handcuffs. And I said, well, the guy who just left was coming out of the house. He didn't say anything. I said, so why are you all still here if you're waiting on the search warrant? He didn't show me a warrant, an arrest warrant. You don't have a search warrant, but you own our yard. Please remove your vehicles from the yard. They ignored that. And that was around 11. I was talking with his mother, keeping her abreast as to what was taking place. So eventually she was able to get off. She got there, I think, around 3 or 4. And I had to go back to work. and trying to contact East Point at that time to see what my son was being detained for and how can we get our hands on the arrest warrant and the charges.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said he was being charged with murder. And I asked him, who did he murder? Where did this happen? Lips sealed by saying nothing. So after his mom got there, as I stated, she started to ask them similar questions. Well, how do you come here and pick someone up and you don't have a warrant? And they just listening.
Not saying nothing.
Not saying anything. So I told her to call me once Detective William got there with the search warrant. And that was about maybe 7:30. And they came in, according to Hakim's mom, and searched the house. And we didn't know what they were looking for. We didn't interfere. They eventually left. And gave her what they called a receipt of the things that they took. And from October 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, I'm trying to find out what's going on with my son. Why are you holding him? Does he have a bond? So they moved him from East Point Police Department to Fulton County Police Department. So for 8 months, there was no police report. There was nothing to explain to us why Hakim was being detained. They had a hearing. First court appearance was the 18th, October 18th at Fulton County Jail. They brought Hakim out. He didn't have a lawyer. He didn't have a public defender at that time. Because all the lawyers we were talking to needed a police report. They needed something so that they could go by what was going on, so that they can at least ascertain what took place so they know how to approach it. Well, every lawyer was like, well, call us back when you get your hands on the police report. That never happened for 8 months. So they gave Hakim a public defender by the name of Attorney Ross. He got the case dismissed. And keep in mind now, this October 18th, we didn't find this out until the following year, late July, early August, because at that time, the first court appearance for a trial was July 14, 2014.
Mm-hmm. But Attorney Ross got it dismissed
back in October 18, 2013.
The next day?
Right, the next day. He got it dismissed.
What?
Right? Got it dismissed.
Oh, wow.
November 1st, they had another hearing that the state called. It was a preliminary hearing. Judge Lovett. Judge Lovett, here's the facts. And he asked, well, the lawyer at that time, they had changed lawyers now. Still, no lawyer would take it because still there was no police report. So they switched lawyers. Ross no longer has the case. Now, Attorney Overton, Attorney Theory has it. So Attorney Theory has the case. Remember, no communication with the family. I'm calling, trying to see who his attorney is. Nobody's returning our call.
Mm-hmm.
They just tell him he has a public defender. His name is such and such. Give him a call. Well, we showed up at court. One of the things the lawyer asked on November 1st, 2013, did you have probable cause to arrest Mr. Lofton, Detective William? And if you did, who did you get the probable cause from? And who was that judge? She could not answer. This is in the transcript. To this day, she could not answer. She said, well, I had to do an exigent report, and the exigent report showed that it was, important that we got his phone records, and his phone records, we asked for his phone records, and we wanted his phone records so that we could show that he was in contact with the victim. Yeah, I understand that, but who told you had probable cause to arrest Mr. Lofton? And she went back to her exigent report again, which later turned out to be a lie. Because she said, and I quote, at approximately 8:30 hours, victim Jason Walker was shot while sitting in his vehicle. The victim died through an investigation detective learning the victim had contact with his murder through the target number, which was Hakim's mother's phone number. Got our hands on those records. Later the following year in July, this was the middle, 15th, around 14th, 15th of August the following year. And we was looking for this alleged victim according to the police report that they eventually put in the file. Now understand, they got 6 different police reports in the file, and not only one police report, synopsis had a affidavit unsigned. Now one of the police report had a signed affidavit attached to it, only one, and it wasn't signed, which was a red flag to me, an individual who were investigators who knew the law and understood the law, that it should be, for each report, it should have been an affidavit.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Signed affidavit.
So, now, I'm sorry.
I said a signed affidavit at that.
A signed affidavit, notarized.
Mm-hmm.
All right? The affidavit was there, unsigned. Right? Unattached. So, he's asking her again. So you didn't have probable cause. Where was the victim shot? He was shot at the Chevron. Which Chevron? Chevron, Camp Creek, in Washington Road. Okay. Well, your report said he was shot at a different Chevron. Yeah, we was told he was at that Chevron, but when we pulled the videotape, it didn't show the victim, nor the perpetrator, nor Mr. Eatman.
Well,
that's right. That was no video. It was a video, but it didn't show them.
So now you scream around trying to find a video with somebody that looked like somebody.
Well, they was trying to find they wanted a video. Well, I don't know what they were trying to do. In reading the information and listening to what she's saying in court, it didn't make sense, because you stated in your report they was at the Chevron at Camp Creek and Camp Creek and Washington Road. There's a video, but there's no video of my son. There's no video of the alleged victim. There's no video of the alleged victim, quote unquote, friend that had something to do with this particular alleged crime. Now they move it from that location to a location about a half a mile up the street at another Chevron at 285 in Washington Road, where they don't pull the videos now. Despite the fact you had videos all about the Chevron gas station that showed Hakim was there, had video cross the way at the apartment complex entrance, and pretty much video everywhere. But she stated, well, we didn't bother to pull those videos. What?
Yeah.
You come to Hakim resident, lock him up, and you don't have proof of probable cause that he did it. Okay. At this point, the judge had heard so much. The judge starts to ask the detective questions, because now she's answering questions on the behalf of Eatman and the alleged victim. And, well, who was the victim? Where was he shot? One shot went from two shot and went from one shot. I heard two shots. I heard one shot.
Can you keep the
So the
last
judge says, all right, was there any blood in the car? No. Were there any gunpowder residue in the car?
How you get shot in the car and ain't no blood?
No blood, no gunpowder residue, no DNA from Hakim, no DNA from the alleged person, Eatman, who was in the vehicle. No, that we talking about hair follicles, right? Or anything that possibly could have fallen from the alleged victim, Hakim, or this guy, Eatman. They didn't find any traces of not even the alleged victim being in his own vehicle, despite he's supposed to be Caucasian and a little over 6 feet, close to 275 pounds, I think. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, Hakim is only 5'6", at that time probably 135 pounds. But when asked by Eatman couldn't say for sure if Hakim was the person. So to this day, no one have ever identified Hakim as being the alleged perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
So now Judge Lovett is confused, upset, said the case is so convoluted. The victim lied, according to the detective lying, and the friend lying. Everybody's lying. So he said he didn't know what to believe. So he dismissed that day malice murder. He said it won't be any malice murder.
That was November 1st?
That was November 1st, 2013. Then November 4th, he came back and dismissed all of the charges. Felony murder, malice murder, assault, robbery, aggravated assault, all the charges were dismissed. Keep in mind, it's 2013, November 1st. Now, November 4th. Judge did not render a full decision on all the charges until the 4th, but that day on the 1st, because of what he was asking and what was being told, that you didn't have probable cause. You picked this guy up, and you say you had probable cause, but no judge, you couldn't show where any judge had given you a warrant to arrest. So therefore, the warrant that they eventually had in the files was fake and just scribbled some writing on a made-up warrant and stuck in the files. God is my witness. Then they, so after he determined to dismiss all the charges, Hakim was not told by that attorney that the charges was dismissed. He knew the malice murder was dismissed because it was announced in court that day. But they failed to tell Hakim that the judge came back and said all the charges were dismissed. And Hakim was, at that time, free to go. And his lawyer didn't tell him. What the state did, the state took the case from that lawyer, gave it to another lawyer named Max Sharp. Max Sharp was a Superior Court lawyer who took it from a magistrate lawyer who are all in the same office for this public defender's office. Mind you now, Hakim still don't have a private lawyer because no private lawyer knows what's going on with the case, because we're now from October all the way till July. and there was no police report available to the public or any attorney. So now, Attorney Sharp has it, and he gets it in January. He gets it in February. So January 17, 2014, Attorney Theory has it. He appears along with myself, Hakim's mother, in the prosecutor's office. And we like, prosecutor's office? This is magistrate. Why is the prosecutor got the case? Should be the Solicitor General that has the case, but it's the prosecutor's office who gets the case after it leaves magistrate court. But now it's in the hands of the prosecutor. And I knew that was strange because, being a businessman, and I dabble with the courts from time to time with dispossessories and things of that nature. People doing crazy stuff at the mall that I used to manage. Mm-hmm. I knew somewhat the procedure. Well, they're asking Judge Karen Woodson if she could reset the case so that they can secure an indictment. She says, Judge Lovett case, give it back to him. I'm not taking any judge's case in his absence. Unbeknownst to us, Judge Lovett had dismissed the case, but because he had dismissed Hakim's case and other cases similar to Hakim, they had moved him from the magistrate superior court and sent him back to juvenile court. So we are looking for Judge Lovett.
They sent it to juvenile court?
No, this was superior court.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, superior court, magistrate court. He's a magistrate judge in superior court. But because he had the history of dismissing frivolous charges against defendants, we didn't know this fight was going on. So Judge Lovett was pulled specifically after Hakim's case and sent over to juvenile court.
Okay, the judge.
They done moved the judge back, moved him over to juvenile court.
So he can't give this young man his freedom.
He can't give him his freedom because now the case, from a jurisdictional standpoint, rests in Judge Lovett's courtroom. So they knew all along what they were doing and what they were trying to, create. And that was to fabricate a murder case and move it forward without the benefit of Judge Lovett ruling standing. Mm-hmm. So he's gone. He's in juvenile court. We're looking for him. We can't find him. Oh, Judge Lovett is no longer at the courts. He's retired. He's coming up with all kind of crazy stories. I lost my witness. Then that morning of January 17, 2014, 9:30 in the morning, we're in Judge Karen Woodson courtroom. And she's telling them, just blasting them, I'm not taking Judge Lovett's case. It's his case. Give it back to him. I'm not taking any judge's case in their absence. She was very, very adamant about that. Then now I'm the state scratching their head. I'm asking Hakim's attorney, well, Hakim should be able to get out because from what we understand, his charges have been dismissed. No, they're going to indict. They're going to indict him. So, well, they haven't indicted yet, so why is he still sitting there? If they're trying to get an indictment, then Hakim could be out. Mm-hmm. So he was like, no. So he was getting a little loud because I'm not understanding the attorney rationale about why he's being, stubborn about getting Hakim out.
Because you're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make any sense.
Right. So now we're asked to leave, and Judge Karen Woodson gets off the stand. She goes to the back. And remember what Attorney Theory said? They are going to indict. I said, well, how can you be sure that they're going to get the indictment? He said, I don't know, but I know they're going to indict, and they can indict. I said, all right. Like I said, we was actually leaving. So me and his mom was talking about it. Got on the phone, started talking to some more attorneys. Matter of fact, 4 prominent attorneys we spoke with out of all about 42 attorneys. Out of the 42, 8 may have had their secretary to call back, and 4 were just like these 4 prominent attorneys, 2 whites, 2 black. Mm-hmm. They couldn't take the case. So we're left with our son still in prison, no bond, right? But then he, all of a sudden on paper, he has a bond, right? But the bond, we learned, was removed and he was free to go. And this is why we couldn't see the second sheet of what was happening with the documents that the clerk was telling me, because she thought it was me. She said, "You're free to go. Your charges all been dismissed." Mm-hmm. There's another document that won't print. And I'm like, well, you can't tell me what she said. I can't even see it, but it's showing there are 3 documents, but I can give you the copy of the first page where what it says. And so she did, and I took that. And it said damage to government property. I said, well, this doesn't show all the charges. She said, yeah, but the one that does, it won't allow me to print. So I was like, okay. Now, like I said, we fast forward literally from November 1st all the way to February. Hakim now shows up at court, a new lawyer, Max Sharp, mm-hmm. and from the public defender's office. He all of a sudden tries to build this story and have me to believe, well, yeah, your son looks pretty guilty, and he's, I don't like saying this, but he don't look good for him. I said, well, just speak straight words. Just what's going on? Why is he charged with murder? And how soon will you have the discovery package? And do you have the discovery package now? He's like, no, there's no discovery package yet. And I said, well, how long is it going to take you to get it? We'll get a copy. He said, well, I'm working on it. So I said, well, I understand they're going to indict, so have they indicted? He said, oh, yeah, they indicted, so we'll be going to court on the indictment sometime this year. I said, wait a minute. When did they indict Hakim case? He said, well, they indicted it back in January. I said, in January, I was like, so it kind of dawned on me. I said, okay, well, they were trying to get an indictment, so I guess they did get it. Mm-hmm. Well, I said, well, there's no need in fighting over that, so we'll just get ready to prepare for trial. Trial starts in July. It's a hung jury. We thought really was a not guilty verdict, but it was, according to them, a hung jury, right? And we thinking Hakim should be able to get out. If they're going to try him again, he should be able to get out on bond. Judge was like, no, he's not getting the bond. He's not letting him out. Just cold. I'm like, wow. Nothing appears to be pointing that Hakim was the shooter, and there's no proof, there's no police report, there's nothing. So shortly after that hung jury, they start dumping paperwork in the files, and Allah just told me to get up and go check the files. And being obedient, there it was. They was dumping paperwork in the files. I'm grabbing and making copies, As we began to look through the documents and look at things, we like, man, there's something wrong with these documents. They don't look official. So, excuse me. They basically made the story up. Because as we sat and listened, and all the people came on board, nobody said, and no one was able to point fingers at Hakim Lofton shot Jason Walker. Not one person. There was only one guy who said he looked like the one, but he couldn't be for sure. Now, if Jason Walker and Hakim was friends or knew each other, which they didn't. Brown knew Hakim, but they were not friends. He was just an older guy coming around trying to do what they do, entrap young men.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's happening in Georgia. This is what's happening in all over the United States. Like I mentioned earlier on the prayer line, that they did the same thing to his cousin about 2.5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But
y'all were able to get him out.
We were able to get him out.
Uh-huh.
Praise be to Allah. Once we realized, I knew the MO. I knew what they were doing. So I jumped on the phone with the FBI. My family members, friends, the family, they all got together, suit and bow ties, long. Went to DeKalb County where they had him, holding him, saying he wasn't there. He was over here. We don't know where he's at. They showed up. He got out in 2 days. He was out in 2 days. And they had put 6 felony charges on him. And all he had done in that situation was have a conversation with his, at that time, expecting mother's child, right? I mean, expecting, his girlfriend was expecting.
Uh-huh.
And he was told not to communicate because they had gotten into an argument and her mother had called the police. But nothing in the way of
6 felonies.
6 felonies. But they had put 6 felonies and they was getting ready to do the same thing to him. But by Allah's grace and mercy, we was able to foil that whole situation because we jumped on it right away. Unfortunately, by Hakim, we didn't know what had happened for 8 months. Like I say, we didn't have a police report. So this thing is jumped from municipal court, magistrate, superior court, straight to trial. No order from Judge Levitt to go to superior court for trial. We didn't see the indictment. We didn't know if it was indicted. We thought it was indicted. So the first trial, it was a hung jury. We're looking at this paperwork. We're going through it. And the individuals that was helping me, and one of the investigators said, "Man, these papers fake. These documents ain't even real." we looking at the documents I'm like, what? He's like, man, this. He said, man, they made this up. I said, man, come on, stop. He said, no, they made it up. I said, no. I'm like, I don't disbelieve you, but
how is it going this far and it's made up documents?
Right. So I'm looking at the tickets was dated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, the first police report was an 8-liner. Didn't have Hakim name on it anywhere. Right? The citations were not signed by Hakim nor the detective. Right? And these are citations, 6 citations. But you don't sign them anywhere. Make copies of that. Take pictures of the original. And as I'm continuing to go back and forth, all of a sudden I see copies of the citation with Hakim's signatures on it. Then I go back another day, I see citation with just where it been copied. They signed the copy and made copies of that and put it back in the file with just the detective name on it. I'm like, what's going on with this? Literally, they have copies, many copies in possession, giving them to various people because, like I say, I didn't trust them at this point. Never trusted them, but I didn't trust them at all.
And you still have all this paperwork, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Matter of fact,
need that.
It can be pulled down on Fulton County clerk of the court website, and it's under notation for the court records for the purpose of appeal. And I'm going to get into that in a few minutes. Well, anyway, so Hakim been arrested. We going through the paperwork. We get his booking report, the warrant reference number, where you're supposed to put the warrant down for what you arrested the person for, right? But there's no warrant number.
Because they didn't have a warrant.
Right, and then it said whole reasons warrantless arrest. So a warrantless arrest means I saw you commit the crime, I don't need a warrant. So the two officers who say they saw Hakim commit the crime, they were being tried for murder right underneath him in April of 2014 when he was being arraigned. Right? So now the first trial has ended. We're looking at these documents, the stuff ain't making sense. We see that they've engaged in a massive amount of fraud. When September trials start, mind you now, I got my hands on the documents, sharing with attorneys that we're going to see. They don't want to touch the case now. No, we can't take it. No, we can't take it. Right, well, I mean, why can't you take it? It's too messy.
It's too much of a lie. We can't do that.
Make liability. So we're like, wow. Then it says on the booking report, issuing authority. East Point didn't put their information down. Had no bond. Now this is their booking report. When they book you into the Sally Port at any jail, you have to have the charges and the warrant information or the charges along with the citations. There were no citations with that. There was no warrant or warrant reference number. We found all this out July 31st going into the second week of October, because I'm still going down grabbing paper. They made a decision to retry Hakim. So on September 29, 2014, he's getting ready to go back to trial for the same charges, same citation. Nothing changed. So now we into double jeopardy. So we asking them, what's going on? You know, are they going to have new charges, a new citation? Because what are they going back with? They went back with the same charges, same citations. But they was unaware of the fact that I was in possession of these documents. So on September 22nd, 2014, I stood up in court and I told the judge, I said, you all are engaging in fraud against my son. The whole courtroom was just like, what? What did he just say? I said, you all are engaging in fraud against my son. And if you continue to move forward in this case, you will be convicting my son by engaging in fraud upon the court. The prosecutor looking crazy. The judge said, where's the fraud? I didn't know quite yet where it was at that time. And I said, and he said, Max, are you ready to go to trial? He said, that's a loaded question, Your Honor. It's the lawyer, Hakim lawyer, public defender. He said, well, I think
Mr.
you're doing a
Sharp.
great job, Mr. Sharp. He said, I think you're doing a great job. He said, well, Your Honor, you know, that's really a loaded question. He said, well, I think you're doing a great job, and we're going to move forward in this case. So get ready for the jury. We're going to bring the jury in. I said, Your Honor, again, Hakim has signed off on this paperwork. He's terminating this attorney, and they're engaging in fraud. He said, well, we're going forward. Max, are you ready? He said, Your Honor, it's my law license at state. That's what he says. This is my law license at state. We still don't know what a fraud is. We just know this paperwork look crazy. For 2 days straight, trial could not take flight because we were still trying to get to the bottom. That day when fraud was uttered in the courtroom by myself and my son, he got up and left the bench. The district attorney, Howard, came down with his team of investigators. They was talking to the prosecutor in the doorway. I hear him say, keep me posted. Didn't know why he said that, but I knew something was wrong the way they was looking at me. We made eye contact. Then a judge comes in from another courtroom, standing in the doorway. I knew the judge from a civil issue, a dispossessory issue, right? So I walked over to him. I said, "Hey, what's going on? How's it going?" I said, "Is you coming into the courtroom now? You gonna be having?" He said, "No, I'm just coming to check to see what's going on with things in here." Do you know that judge was the judge who had the two officers in his courtroom at the time Hakim was being, right? They were preparing Hakim to go back to trial. Those two officers were being arraigned for murder. And that's why they did not show up in the July trial to testify as the persons or individuals who claimed they saw Hakim.
Because they on trial for murder. Because
they on trial for murder. And
crooked.
Number one, crooked. And then number two, they never witnessed the murder. It was all made up. So that judge left. The director of the public defender's office came over. I walked out the courtroom. She was talking to my daughter and Hakim's mother at the time. And she walked over to me. No, Hakim's mom said, "Well, that's his father." She said, "Yeah, you Miss Love?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, what can I do to bring serenity back to this situation?" I said, "Well, you can go in and get your attorneys out of the courtroom on my son's case, first and foremost, because he's been terminated." She said, "Well, I'm not going to be able to do that." Because I'm like, "Why?" I said, He said, "Because the judge is not going to allow us to do that." I said, "Why not?" If he has terminated, then I quoted the statute and the code according to the rules of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Well, where'd you get that from?" I said, "Well, you're an attorney."
Thank you.
I said, "You don't know where it came from?" She said, "Well, okay. Well, let me just go in the courtroom and see what's going on." So she goes in the courtroom. So everything was in disarray. Like I said, the judge had left the bench, but we still didn't know what the fraud was. So eventually everybody got back in the courtroom. About a couple of hours had passed. They moved forward with another lawyer he brought in and bringing that particular attorney in. It was very, very disturbing. So eventually, they got through the 3.5-day trial, found my son guilty of murder. That's 2014, September 26. He got 30 years plus 5. And no one on that day, at that trial in September, nor in July or before, ever pointed Hakim out as being the alleged victim of this alleged deceased
They convicted
person.
him of murder with no actual evidence. Because
no evidence, no witnesses, no witness, no law enforcement agency, and that was 2014. He's sitting in prison right now for trumped up charges that they know, they being the state, along with this alleged mother. And I'm going to tell you why I say that, because they did what was called an exigent report, right? That she being the detective, had to send to Metro and had to send to Verizon Wireless for the mother and her son phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about they never tendered her phone or her son's phone in the records in July or September? Now they're talking about the phones, but they never tendered the phone records into the court's record. They never made it part of the actual trial, the July trial or the September trial. The lawyer knew this and played along with it. We found out
the lawyer that's supposed to be representing Hakim.
This year, July 3rd, when we hired this is the second lawyer we hired, because the other lawyer we hired He came out like he was going to defend Hakim. He saw the fraud, saw the failure of justice and everything. He filed that motion. That motion is on record. But he never did the briefs in support of the motion, which sort of like you kind of like did a shabby job. You told us what happened. You alleged what took place, but you didn't give any supporting brief with statute and codes tied to it. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you just threw something in the records to save face, and he was running from the questions. I would meet with him to see if he filed this. He didn't file what we asked him. We said, Hakim is requesting you file this. He didn't. He just refused. I got over 1,000 emails and texts where I was fighting literally with this guy. 2016, myself and a friend of mine, we went down to get the records and looked at the records in 2016. And they told us that the prosecutor's office had the records. We like, well, the case is over. They should be, available for the public to view. They said, well, no, the prosecutor's office had them. So we had to go up to the prosecutor's office. We got up to the prosecutor's office, and she said, well, hold on, let me get the prosecutors on this case. So he came downstairs. He said, yeah, I can help you. We told him we was there to view the files. We wanted to see the files. He said, well, what's his name? So he looked him up in the computer, and he said, we said, well, he's scheduled to go to a hearing in February. This was December, right? 2016. He said, how is he scheduled to go to a hearing and nobody told me anything about it? Prosecutor's office after nobody. He picked up the phone, called the judge's chamber. He was on the phone with them, going back and forth, literally just arguing with them. He hung up the phone. He said, hey, let me talk to you guys out here. He said, listen, man, get your attorney to get at me. We can only go so far. Your son ain't got no business being locked up. He said, but I can't represent your son. Just get your attorney to get at me. And he was just sickened by what was going on with the case. Told the attorney, I'm arguing with the attorney for 30 minutes on the telephone. Why I went to visit the prosecutor's office and then tell him about it. I said, first of all, I don't need your permission. You represent my son. You don't represent me. I have a right to look into my son's case to see what's going on. But because I paid you and I need to get some facts, since you can't deliver on the facts, I need the facts to find out what's going on with my son's case myself. So he said, well, you don't need to be talking. You're going to mess your son's case up. I said, wait, no more than what you've already done. You're not doing anything with the case. My son is still sitting in prison. You done got paid thousands of dollars and haven't done anything but file one motion. You started off, looked like you was getting ready to take off and do the right thing, but you hadn't even filed the brief. I done sent you 8 emails arguing with you back and forth about the briefs being filed in support of your motion. He hangs up on me. He hangs up. When I talk to him again, he goes so far as like, well, I'm not going to do S. I'm not going to do S. That's how cocky he got. Then eventually, we got to September 2018. He was scheduled to go to the hearing. And this guy was running from the hearing. He was also getting ready to be seated as Solicitor General because they had promised him a seat. Man, these are elected official seats. These are elected official seats.
Now, which one is that?
This is his attorney, Whiteside.
Whiteside.
Right. He's saying, well, I got the seat. I'm already in. Like, when you, saying to myself, well, you already in. This is an elected official because I ran 2016 for Fulton County Sheriff. So I know the process, know the procedure. I'm like, well, this guy's talking about he's already in, so that means he done compromised my son's case to get a seat. To be judge. Mm-hmm. But they switched it from state judge because the Caucasian lady was raising so much sand up in Gwinnett County about the seat. So they gave him Solicitor General in lieu of state judge. Therefore, leaving the Hispanic lady out in the cold because she doesn't realize this guy has already been promised. He tell us emphatically, listen, I got the seat. This is what he telling the family. I got the seat. I'm already in. Just being cocky. He said, it's just a matter, when the election come around, but I got to see, I've already been appointed, I'm like, dang. So he sold my son out for this seat.
He ain't tell, well, I was going to say he ain't tell no lie, but
right.
He won't tell no lie about that.
Exactly. So me and Brother Stanley, I'm on the phone trying to reach this guy. The case manager for my son for the court's telling me that my lawyer filed conflict of interest. And I'm like, what do you mean conflict? He said, yes, it's your attorney, so you need to find that out from him. So I'm calling this guy. So I get him on the phone because I call him from Brother Stanley's phone. And I blast the guy, say, hey, man, this is Mr. Lofton. Where are you? He said, well, I'm in court right now. I got a jury trial. I put in a conflict. And I said, but you didn't tell me that. He's sitting in court waiting on you to get here to defend him, represent him in this hearing, and you know where to be found. So he said, yeah, but I'm going to get down there, but let me finish this case. So we hang up. So Brother Stanley said, well, where is he? I said, he's up on the 8th floor. He said, let's go up there. So we go up. This man's sitting there, flipping through his phone, sitting in the jury booth in an empty courtroom. I'm like, man, you sitting up here in an empty courtroom? I'm like, my son is downstairs waiting. Oh yeah, we just got through with the case. I won this case. I'm like, listen, I don't want to hear all that.
I don't.
You need to be in my son's courtroom right now defending him. So he gets down there and he goes into the courtroom and he gets downstairs. He's now standing before the courts looking all scared and nervous because he knows what he has done. So now he can't come in and vigorously defend my son and know he done compromised my son's case with the position they done gave him in lieu of my son's case. But by Allah's grace, we was working on getting another attorney. We just didn't let the, right hand know what the left hand was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes down, right? The following week, when they get it postponed from September to January, he goes down. He had my son to sign off on releasing him as the attorney because he's saying he takes the seat in January and he can't be on the case.
This January 2019. This also.
This is January 2019. It's the 3rd, right around the 3rd, right? Between the end of December, 1st of January, the 3rd, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
So he go down that Monday, whenever that Monday was in January, and have my son to sign him off as the attorney. We find this out from my son. He said, well, Dad, don't even worry about it. I mean, if you don't want to defend me, there's no need me to keep going with this guy because all he's going to do is keep messing up. So don't even sweat it. I'm angry. I'm infuriated about this whole thing. So he gets this attorney, right? Attorney Davis. He looks at the case. I give him the notation. He looks at the notation. He takes Hakim a copy of the notation because they kept sending it back, right? And wouldn't let him receive it. I kept that. So every time I sent him something, they sent it back. So he didn't know what was going on with his case because you gotta remember he never received a discovery package. He never received the discovery package. I was like, okay, Allah, just help me with this thing. And he said he's going to look into all that. He's going to fight for our son and do what he can do to get him off because it doesn't look like it's that hard of a case. Pretty much look, it's I can't really promise you much, but I think we can win this because no one ever came in and said Hakim, shot him. There was no witnesses that came in and said he did anything. And matter of fact, the state witness who came in and said he kind of looked like the guy, but then he turns around and tells the court he lied about everything. He just made up the stories. And that Attorney Davis just got that particular witness, state witness, interview, right, this year because Attorney Sharp never requested or never made the state tender their witness testimony into records. He didn't have them. He didn't tender. He didn't ask that the state Because once the state put it out there, they supposed to tender he should have forced them to tender the evidence in the record. He didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And us knowing a little about criminal law at that time, we just following along with what we're hearing. We knew there was something wrong with it. So he purposely didn't do a lot of things that he knew would cause Hakim some real serious legal issues going forward. And what I mean by that is, on July 3rd, 2019, the phone records were not tendered in the record. That Eatman character statement was not tendered into records. And you know what tendered in the records mean, right? And that just means that, you would say, Your Honor, the state made such a statement. I would like to have those records tendered into records. And if the state object, they would object, but they didn't even do that. They just left it open. So this attorney, Davis, had to, in the hearing for motion for new trial. Now, they brought Hakim up in September 2018, 22nd, all the way up until July 3rd on this hearing. Everything is looking like it's going, he's going to be getting out basically because, again, there's nothing there, right? Then this lawyer forces them to put forth the phone records that they did an exigent report. And what an exigent report is, it's a document that they request from Metro or the phone company, and the phone company sends them that information. And what they need from the detective is a affidavit, need video footage of the crime. And there's 4 main things they need: video footage of the crime, affidavit, judge's signature. They didn't have that. Guess what they did?
What?
Detective William forged the judge's signature.
This is a female?
Yes.
Wow.
To get the phone records from Metro, even though what Metro sent didn't prove
anything.
Hakim was ever in any contact with his alleged victim. Then this year, from 2013, they supposed to have phone records, according to what I read earlier, that Hakim was supposed to be with this guy at 8:30 on the phone with him and killing him at the same time. He was on the phone with his murderer at 8:30. So we believe the murder took place at 8:30. So he's on the phone with him and he's killing him at the same time. Despite the fact that the mother stated in 2013, right? 2014 in July trial, that her son was sitting at her table at 8 a.m. in the morning because she called him back in to have breakfast. Where they live and adjacent to where they allege the crime took place is between 45 to an hour 15, depending on time of day. So if it's in the morning, rush hour traffic, we talking it's going to take every bit of 1 hour, right? So they're in Noonan, Georgia, and this crime was supposed to take, if you know anything about Georgia, Noonan, Georgia is an hour away from, about 15 away, hour 20 away from Atlanta. And it's about an hour away from East Point, right? 85 South. But he was supposed to be there at 8:30, but his mom said in trial that he was at her table at 8 o'clock. Conflict of interest, right? Didn't make any sense. But the state witness, right? I'm sorry, which is the mother, says he's at her table at 8 o'clock. Well, the phone records that came out this year, you got 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you got 5 years them gone by, and the phone records was never made available to Hakim, never made available to his attorneys. And it is our belief that the attorneys was aware of this because that's why they didn't push for the phone records. And guess what phone records they had to give up this year when this lawyer requested those phone records? the mother had created a spreadsheet of compiled three different phone records that she went into the computer and did an Excel spread and provided that through an email from her email to Detective Donna Williams. And that's what they say they had as phone records. And even that information did not have my son's telephone number at all on any of the documents that they provided to the state. And the state was fully aware of this. And this is why they never put forth the phone records. And this...
and the attorney for Hakim never even argued that.
Never argued Overton theory, Ross, Overton theory, Max, Whiteside, Andrew Fleischman, because he was the appellate attorney. And the appellate attorney, when the first trial took place, when the second trial was over, it went immediately to the appellate court. They put this white guy on the Hakim case, and it was Attorney Fleischman. And I went to him. At that time, we got all the evidence of the wrongdoing that has taken place. And he would not put forth the facts. One, there was no warrant. Two, there was no indictment. We know it wasn't an indictment because the indictment was supposed to be brought back January 14, 2014. Well, remember what I said earlier, they was in Judge Karen Wilson's courtroom on January 17, 2014, trying to secure the indictment by trying to get the case reset.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't get it because she refused to take it.
She said, send it back to Judge Levitt.
Send it back to Judge Levitt. Judge Levitt's case is in his courtroom. She's not taking any judge's cases, and they're absent. So they was left empty-handed. They didn't have an indictment. And it reflects that in the documents that we have that Judge Levitt fined the state $100. That's procedurally wise. When you fail to indict, you get fined.
Mm-hmm.
They go through record. Well, there is also a procedure that they supposed to go through, right? Not practicing law, trying to act like an attorney or anything, but they have an indictment rules of order, pretty much, right? In the handbook, well, you have to have a judge, what they call open court. Well, first of all, Hakim has to be there and know that they're seeking an indictment. They have to go out, they have to come in, like a jury, be instructed, come back and let the courts know what they decided, and go out to the grand jury. No lawyers invited from the defendant's side. The defendant chooses to testify he or she can. Well, guess what?
They never told
Hakim is sitting in prison. His lawyer knocked on his door saying, you got an indictment coming up, or nothing. You know why? Because they never had the indictment hearing. That's why there was no judge on the record for having heard the indictment. And the judge that they put on, right, the record was Judge Hicks. And then they said Judge Hicks heard the preliminary hearing as well, despite the fact that the preliminary hearing clearly states in the synopsis report, this case was brought before the Honorable Judge Levitt on November 1st, 2013 at 9:30 a.m. Well, guess what it says now? That Judge Hicks heard the case. Judge Hicks heard it at 9:30.
2013.
Huh?
2013.
2013.
They changed the name?
They changed the name. I've made plenty copies.
And this because Judge Levitt dismissed all the charges November 4th, 2013.
Yes.
And then, oh my God.
And they did not have charges. They did not have the indictment. So what they did, they showed, as stated, even before they put it in the record, made it public, they showed the preliminary hearing, right, 9:30 a.m., November 1st, right, 2000, right, 13, was heard by Judge Hicks, right? This, trust me, family, we talking about an egregious act,
insidious,
fraud, right, and the misrepresentation of material facts. Okay. Now, again, people can say what they want to say, but one thing about Brother Josh, I'm not going to sit around here and make up stuff because I don't have to. I'm literally giving you actual facts.
Look,
on what they did to my son, and they know they did it, and that's why they tried to kill him 5 times, right? And people have actually wondered, what the heck is going on? Well, we were wondering the same thing, but unfortunately, we didn't know. We had absolutely no idea. We was worse than a deer in the headlight.
That they stabbing him.
Blind. Yes. Matter of fact, Attorney Fleischman, in 2015, him and I was going back and forth saying we got emails. Matter of fact, he pulled the notation for the court records for the purpose of an appeal that was filed the 27th. They wouldn't take it on the 22nd because they were saying something was technically wrong with it, so they couldn't take it. What they had decided to do was just simply try to avoid getting it, filed into the courts. So I spoke with him and asked him if he's going to file it. He was like, no, the language was too harsh. I'm like, I understand that, but what I'm not understanding, you the attorney, even though it's too harsh, it's the truth. He said, well, I'm not filing it. I'm like, wow. Okay.
This man said I'm not going to file because the language is too harsh.
He said it was too harsh. And I said, well, even they didn't have a warrant. He said, yeah, I understand all that. And I said, and the case wasn't indicted. So how's all that too harsh? And they engaged in fraud. The thing is, he did not like the fact, I just sent you, you can take a look at that front face and you tell me what it says. You see what I'm saying? And that says Judge Lovett. I was in Judge Lovett courtroom, right? And they came back and fabricated documentation. Okay? And changed it from Judge Lovett on the 9th. If you look at that document.
I'm looking at it now.
What judge did it say on that document?
What? Before Honorable Judge Craig L. Schwall.
Hold on a second. What did I send you?
Oh, so that's what. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. I sent you the wrong one. Okay. That's the judge that has the case now.
Now.
I apologize. Right. I apologize. Yeah, I should. I'm sorry.
No. Now, so even go ahead and send what you want to send me. So, for the case now, so he was convicted in 2014, September 26, 35 years, 30 plus 5 years. So what is this? So this is what is this now? What is this? Is this the appeal?
Well, this is a hearing. This is a hearing, right? This was a hearing on July 3rd. It was a hearing on the matter, right? And they, this is where we found out about the phone records. We found out about the interview of this alleged 48-year-old so-called witness of the state that turned out to be a straight-up liar of his own admission, that he just lied about everything. And that, should have been simply overturned based on the fact that the state brought in a witness that they knew would come in and would lie. And the state also knew that the phone records did not validate that my son was on the phone as the state alleged, right? And as Detective Donald Williams, okay, I just sent it to you, so you should. And you tell me what that November 1st states on that document.
Okay, just got it.
Now, this is what they're doing. Hakim is just one of the many individuals that could very well be victim of this kind of prosecutorial egregious misconduct. Not just misconduct, but egregious prosecutorial misconduct.
Okay, so this one says for the Honorable Judge Levitt.
Right.
November 1st, 2013.
November 1st, 2013. So how is it on the document that I just sent you, and you tell me what it says, who had the preliminary hearing?
Judge Wade. Okay, wait. Judicial Officer Richard Hicks.
Okay. Now you're looking at the actual transcript. Now, how in the world they go in and put? See, I was never supposed to have my hands on this document, but God is good. But because they knew we made this document part of the notation, so they had to go in now and put it in the court docket. So what they put in the court docket is what they call misrepresentation of material facts. Because if what you looking at is being documents reflecting Judge Levitt held it, and that's official transcript that you're holding, right? So how does Richard Hicks' character become the November 1st judge? Because they never, again, they sent him back to juvenile court, and they never ever thought that I would be investigating this case along with these investigators looking into what happened with my son.
They thought you were just going to let it lie. My child's life?
Yeah, right. And, I'm going to get a lawyer, get him out of this. No, ma'am. That's not Brother Josh. That's not Brother Josh. I'm sitting here holding in my possession a copy of the many things that I made copies of out of the file. A so-called autopsy report.
Oh, wow. That's
I
great.
said earlier about 5 pages, but this is 8 pages. They modified and put 8 pages. But this is a certified copy. And it's not even, it doesn't even have a diagram. Shouldn't it have a diagram showing where the person was shot, where the bullet went in? He was said to be struggling with his victim. They didn't even mark on the body where he got bruised. This is a white guy supposed to be struggling with a black guy. No markings, no gunpowder residue, no blood. And then even the coroner's, in her statement in court, this is in the transcript, the public defender's office nor the prosecutor's office bothered to go back and correct her. She said, oh yeah, the victim, he was shot in the stomach. Well, the police report said he was shot in the torso. They argued in court that he was shot in his torso, but she states on the stand that he was shot in the stomach. This is just more of the inconsistencies of the lies that they have told. See, that they have told. So, all the Hakim cases, charges were dismissed. All the charges were dismissed.
Is that as of July 3rd, 2019?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What? So they've been dismissed again?
No, his charges was dismissed back in 2014. We didn't know it. See, everything what I just sent you, I found that out. That document you're holding, that document I found. They got that document to me. Look, if you look at the bottom of the page, November 17. You see what I'm saying? And you can see where it came from, right?
Which one is this? The one with Judge Hicks on it, or the one?
No, the one with the what's it? Judge Laws. She was the first judge that had the case. So if you look at the very bottom where it came from and the date when the investigator put it in my hands. You see?
You talking about the first one?
No, the one that showed Judge Hicks, that information that showed Judge Hicks.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking
at the very bottom, if you go look at the very bottom, see, we didn't find that out until November. The case, both trials were over. Both trials were over at that time. See? Both trials were over. See?
So what's going on as of now?
Right now, as of July 3rd, 2019, he had a hearing for a motion for new trial, which was denied. It was denied as of
July 3rd.
But July 3rd was the hearing, and both sides, the prosecutor side and his attorney, were supposed to get back with the courts with their order, showing order asking that he be granted motion for new trial. The prosecutor order is supposed to show, asking the judge to deny motion for new trial, right? Well, I call his attorney. I'm talking to his attorney. I leave him a message, and then he emails me back and say he's already submitted the order to the judge on the 31st. I said, but I asked you several emails to send the order so I can verify you have the information in it that Hakim wished for you to put in the order. I've already submitted it on the 31st. Again, go down to the courts and check. Guess when the order was submitted?
When?
August 5th. And this is his attorney telling me in an email, I already submitted it to Judge Swalls on the 31st. I said, but I asked you to allow me to review it to make sure you had all the issue Hakim wanted raised.
Mm-hmm.
He submitted it on the 31st. I said, well, let me go down and check, see what's going on. I go and pull the records. It shows August 5th when he filed it with the courts. Now, sister, here's the crazy part. The prosecutor filed their order. I'm sorry, the prosecutor don't even file their order. Guess where their order go? Straight to the judge. He signs it. Then they file it on the 9th.
Don't you got to file it for him to sign it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It should have been filed on, if it was the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, or the 8th, it should have been filed. If he signed it on the 8th, it should have been filed unsigned
Before
judge
then.
to review before, right, he signs it. Well, he signs it on the same day that they don't file it. He just signs it, and then they file it. It gets filed on the 9th, after he done signed it on the 8th. What is that? So let me, my Hakim lawyer has 7-page documents for the judge to review. The state has a 41-page documents to be reviewed. Again, not been a lawyer or anything. I'm trying to practice no law. I'm talking facts. The judge is supposed to come back with an independent decision on both the prosecutor and the defendant's attorney's motion for new trial and show why he allowed it, permitted it, or denied it. He signs off on the prosecutor's motion for new trial to be denied. No independent decision of his own. You tell me what that is.
Well, we know what it all is.
So I can't even, I'm contacting this lawyer about this. He's silent. He's playing Silence of the Lamb. But they moved Hakim after being up here from September 22nd, 2018 up until July 3rd, and then all of a sudden they abruptly just moves him, put him back in solitary confinement where he has no communication with the outside world.
Is he still in Fulton County right now?
No, they moved him. That's what I'm saying. They moved him back to Telfair State Prison.
How far away is that?
It's like an hour and a half.
Oh, that's not bad. No.
They're like an hour and a half. See, but he's been to 5 different institutions since he's been incarcerated. In the first place he went, right, the young lady told him, she said, Hakim Lofton, your case has been dismissed twice. What are you doing here? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's like looking crazy. He's trying to figure out what the hell, right?
Why I'm here then?
So, right. So she said, well, you need to have your people, contact an attorney and have them to take a look at this. But, you're here now and, I'm going to see about, getting you transferred back. But instead of sending him back to Fulton County, they sent him to Macon State. And it was Macon State where they sent him, and then he was stabbed 15 times. I'm sorry, he was stabbed 9 times. 3 in the head, 1 in the neck, and 4 in the back. And left to bleed out. God came in, night shift, found him in the closet bleeding out.
Rush him to the hospital.
Rushed him to the hospital, hour away. To Americus, Georgia, from what I understand.
Ooh, God.
And he was there for 10 days. And the nurse was telling them that you need to contact his parents because they need to know he's here. He don't need to be here, and they don't know. They told her to stay out of their business, according to what he was able to hear in his state of being just, he done fought with three grown adults that attacked him. See, way taller than him, And you can imagine how his mom felt